Teachers from hell story time. So when I was in elementary school, I had a teacher who was an absolute nightmare. On the first day of school, I sat down, had my head up, paying attention. She was doing like name calls. She looked at me and said, "Your last name is this?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Oh, you're so-and-so's daughter. Oh, you're so-and-so's niece. Yeah, I taught your daddy and your uncle." And me being a kid, I thought, oh, cool, maybe that's a good thing. No, it wasn't. She hated my dad and my uncle. Therefore, she hated me too. She gets up and walks over to my desk and says, "Hopefully I don't have the same problems with you that I had with them." I didn't exactly know just how bad this was going to be until it started. Now, let me just say, in elementary school, I was not a bad kid. I got my butt tore up at home, so I knew if I misbehaved at school, I was going to get a lot worse at home. I did not act up in class. This woman had anger issues, and I mean, if you couldn't answer a question right there on the spot, even if it was something you were just learning, she would instantly get angry. I can't tell you how many kids she drug out of class and paddled them because they got a math problem wrong. So we were in a very young grade. We were just learning how to add and subtract, and she would start us off with these big ass numbers, and I had no idea what I was doing. I've never been good at math, so I struggled. But of course, who do you think she called to the front? Me. It was like it was her life's mission to embarrass me in front of everyone, and I hated it. She would wait until you sat down, and then she would say whether it was right or wrong, and then have you come back up to the front and yell at you while you're trying to figure it out instead of helping you. So as a small kid, you're standing in front of the whole class, shaking, tearing up, don't know what to do, and she's yelling at you at what to do, and you're not getting it because you're so freaking scared. She thought that fear would make us learn better or faster, but it didn't. It actually made it worse. Mid-year, she comes in class one day and says, "I'm gonna give y'all a test. You're gonna do these 4 math pages with 25 questions on each, and you got 30 minutes to finish it. Oh, you gotta show your work, and if you get more than 3 wrong, I'm gonna paddle you in the class." I already knew my ass was getting tore up because I could not do math that quick. By the end of the test, nobody had completed it. Even the smarter kids, they were on the second page. Like, you just couldn't move that fast. We're kids. She took our whole class and walked us down to the principal's office and wanted him to paddle us one by one, and he said no. He said, "Not only do I not have time to paddle 20, 30 something students, but that just don't make sense. You're paddling them for not finishing a test, and this test is 4 pages long. Like, no, we're not going to do that. Go back to class." And you would have thought the principal would have gotten on to her about her crazy erratic behavior, but he didn't. He just sent us all back to class. So now we're sitting there, and she says, "Oh, well, if he won't paddle you, I guess I will." So she brought us up one by one in front of the class. And she had a paddle that had been broke so many times, white tape was wrapped around it. Y'all, let me tell you something. When I was a kid, I was a big snitch. And if somebody did something like that to me, I'm going straight to my daddy. But just happened that day, my mom was home first, so I went to her. When I told my mom what happened that day, she immediately called the school, demanded answers, could not believe this had happened. The next morning, my mom sends me to get on the bus, so I'm like, oh, okay, well, she's not going out there. They must just not going to worry about it. So I go to school. I'm sitting in class when all of a sudden, not only my parents show up, but multiple other parents, and they are raising teetotal hell about this teacher spanking all of us because we either didn't know the problem or couldn't finish the test within the time frame that she gave us, and these parents were not happy. I mean, they were yelling, screaming, beating on the door, demanding the principal fire her, but he didn't. That teacher was always protected. I don't know if it's because she'd been there so long, or maybe she knew the principal personally. Even back when my dad had her as a teacher, she got away with a lot, and I mean, that woman beat us like she was kin to us, and nothing was ever done about it. So by the end of the year, we take our end of the grade test, and I passed it, but then find out I still failed my grade because she failed me, along with 18 or 19 other students, and the parents were pissed. So the next day or so, I go to school, and when we pull up on the bus, we see parents lined up all the way outside the front door, and I mean, there are tons of people out there raising hell about all these kids being failed. Now, some of the parents knew the principal, and they were able to get their kids passed anyways, but mine weren't because they didn't like my parents, so of course I was failed. The next year, she made our lives even more of a living hell, but then eventually, towards the middle of the year, she was out of school for a good 6 months, and we had an assistant teacher, and that woman was so sweet, and she helped us understand the work. Thank God for that woman. I passed. Like, she would take the time to put us in side groups, the ones who learned it over here and the ones who didn't understand it over here, and she would work with us one-on-one and have the kids who did get it work with us one-on-one, like tutoring, and it helped.
Okay, I have a spooky story. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, and I will tag everything, put everything in the description. But this podcast says true scary stories, and the actual person that this happened to is the one telling the story. So this grown man is talking about when he was 12 years old. He went to his grandma's house, living his best life, goes into her room. He was looking for a nail clipper. Looks down, looks up, and sees there's a wall there, of course, and there's a painting hanging on that wall. Now, he says that he had never seen this painting before. He's 12 years old. He's gone to his grandma's house many, many times, and he somehow never noticed that this painting was there. So he goes and he tells his grandma, and he's like, "Hey, grandma, I noticed this new painting. Did you just get it? Has it always been there? Who is this woman painted on this canvas?" And his grandma says, that's actually me when I was younger. Your great granddad gifted this to me for my quinceañera. Omar goes back, looks at the painting, and is like, oh my gosh, this is my grandma when she was young. He's just admiring the painting. That night, his grandma's outside. He is just wandering around the house and he hears something or someone crying. And he's like, goes and checks on grandma. Grandma's gardening outside. Comes back inside the house and he still hears whatever this is weeping. He looks around and he kind of puts his ear by her bedroom door. And it's definitely coming from her room. He opens the door, he checks, and it immediately stops. He looks at the picture and now he feels like this woman, his grandma essentially, is staring right at him now. And he freaks out. He runs out of the room. He doesn't say anything, just tries to block it. The next day, he tells his grandma, hey, this is what happened. I heard some crying. Went inside your room. It was coming from your room. And I don't know, I feel weird. This painting is scaring me. Grandma pulls it out, doesn't think twice, and puts it in the backyard. Same day, neighbor comes knocking on the door and is like, hey, are you okay? And Omar's grandma is like, yeah, what do you mean? And she's like, well, I was outside doing laundry and I hear some crying coming from your backyard. I was just making sure that you were okay. It sounded like a woman. And his grandma is like, no, it's not me. That same night, Omar is asleep with his uncle and he goes outside because they have an outhouse. The restroom is outside. He goes outside because he has to use the restroom. He wakes his uncle up and is like, hey, can you come with me outside? They both go outside. And as his uncle is waiting for him to finish using the restroom, he also hears weeping coming from the backyard. That next morning, they tell grandma and grandma is like, okay. She grabs the painting and she starts praying over it. As she's praying, she's reading the Bible. The weeping starts again and it's coming from this painting. It's getting louder and it's getting louder, and grandma is just telling them, ignore it, let me finish. She finishes it. She wraps it in plastic and she puts it at the very end of the backyard. She never wanted to talk about it again. He always asked and she never wanted to say anything about this. Maud is a grown man now and he has questions because to this day he will ask his grandma about that night. She won't answer anything. And now he has questions. He's like, why does she know what to do? Why was she so nonchalant about whatever happened that day? And why does she not want to talk about it? He has his own speculation and he thinks that maybe back in the day his grandma used to be some sort of witch or something. Maybe the painter knew them and somehow added some negativity into the painting. He doesn't really know, but he does speculate. But what do you guys think? I heard this story again on this podcast and I was like, oh, hell no. And it's scary because the person on the painting is his grandma. So thank you guys for listening to this spooky story. If you guys have any stories that you'd like for me to read, please send them via DM or email because I'd love to read them. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye!
This right here is one of the scariest moments caught on camera. It will make you understand that if something paranormal happens in your house, man, it's not for the weak. It all started in 2021 in the Philippines in this exact place with these two siblings. You see, the older sister, the one right here, was a nurse student, as you can see, and she had a YouTube channel where her brother was filming her, and in these videos, well, she will show the procedure of her studies and her future job. You know, every time she wanted to do a video for her YouTube channel, she would call her brother, he starts filming her, and she starts explaining stuff about nursing. The main reason she was doing this was to prepare and study for her final nursing exam, and one day, while talking and explaining, well, something happened. At one point in the video, she was talking and as you can see, the light completely changed. It's because the light above her started flickering. This is where her brother, you know, the one who was filming her, completely freaked out and immediately raised his head to see what happened. After that, he raised the camera. His sister told him to keep filming. She was like, yeah, that's probably nothing. Just keep filming, okay? So, what was I saying? Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3. 3 seconds after she started explaining again, the closet opened by itself. This happened so fast that they both freaked out and stopped filming. Later that day, she came back to prove that what happened was not fake. She started explaining that she was next to the closet, and the closet was actually so full of clothes, there is nobody that can fit inside. She then proceeded to show where her brother, the one who was filming, was standing, and then she showed that he was very far from the light switch, meaning that he was not the one messing with the lights. She even decided to install a night camera, and this is where things became really scary. because soon after the camera caught the chair moving by itself, the closet opening and then brutally shutting, just like what happened with them when they were filming. But the worst of all of these things is by far this. If you're asking, bro, what the hell is even this? Well, something was moving inside the closet and you can actually see it.
Ask for his consent, verify the client's identity, and provide...
Ano ito?
Sige na. 1, 2, 3, go. Now that I have introduced myself to the patient, so this is where it all began, and this is the cabinet, and I'm actually very afraid to touch it. This is where my brother stood, and this is the light switch. So
Bro, what in the seven hells is even this? If this happened to me, I will start questioning my existence.
Has anybody else ever had a scary experience with a mirror, or is it just me and my brother? 'Cause I have many scary stories that my brother also experienced, and with that being said, tonight is the one about the mirror. So I was about 17 years old, and my best friend Billy and my mom used to have us babysit my brother after school. That was me and Billy. We would always go hang out in the family room, watch scary movies. Being rambunctious teenagers, that's one thing, but my little brother used to experience some things on his own. There was many nights where he would be like talking to himself in his room, and I didn't think anything of it because he was always in there playing video games. I specifically remember one time me and Billy being out in the kitchen, and my little brother came running out of his room screaming and crying. Now keep in mind, he was only about 8 years old at the time. Me and Billy being like, Jake, what's wrong? What happened? Comes running into both of our arms screaming and crying because of something that he saw in his mirror. I said, Jake, what happened in the mirror? He claimed that he was playing his video games, and then he all of a sudden started hearing a voice behind him. So he said that he got up out of his video game playing chair and he walked over to his mirror because that's where the voice was coming from. I will never forget the tears and the fear that I saw in my brother's eyes when he told me what he saw. Basically what he said that he saw was when he heard that voice in the mirror, he got up out of his chair and he walked over to the mirror, and what he saw was this figure. Now he said it was like a creepy creature looking figure, and it came out of the mirror at him while talking to him. And him being scared and young and just sitting there staring at it, he started to question it, and he said it slowly backed into the mirror and then just like shifted off to the side and disappeared. Now mind you, he said that this thing was very creepy looking with like sharp teeth and all that. We were all young and my little brother was young, and I understand, like I say, like your mind can play tricks on you, but I don't know, that the way his eyes were, how much he was crying, how much full of fear he was. You guys tell me what you think down in the comments, and if you've ever had any scary stories with mirrors, let me know down in the comments. I would love to read them, and I would also love to tell them for you if you want me to. But follow for more crazy stories of my life.
This is the most haunting experience that she has ever had. Creepy story time. So this woman, Cecilia, is sharing her story, and she said that she doesn't mind being tagged below. She says she's had a lot of creepy experiences in her life, but this one chills her to the bone. This happened when she was 34 years old. She's 35 now. So she has 2 hound dogs, and her husband make a really loud kissy sound when they're trying to call them. That's relevant to the story. So Cecilia is just sitting in her recliner listening to some music with her headphones in. All of a sudden, she decided to just press pause for a minute. So at this point, it's silent. Nothing is playing through the headphones. And then all of a sudden, right up in her ear, as though it was coming through her headphones, was this extremely loud mwah kiss sound, sounding exactly like how it does when her husband makes the sound. She said she fully expected to see him when she turned to look, but nobody was there. Well, at least her husband wasn't. As she is looking around to hopefully see her husband, she is starting to have the worst panic attack she has ever had in her life. She knew something was in her house, and she knew it wasn't good. So she called her husband while he was at work. So she's on the phone with him, and he goes, "Did you just make a kissy sound in the phone?" No, she did not. No. So she said she grabs her rosary for protection, puts it on, and heads to the back door. She said she has her arms spread out wide like Jesus on the cross, and she is yelling, "I have God, you have nothing. I have God backing me up and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Basically telling this thing to go back to hell where it belonged. Once those words came out of her mouth, she could hear from the back of the property the lowest, most demonic growl she has ever heard in her life. So now she can't go out there. She goes back into the house. She closed the door. She calmed herself down. She said a prayer, and eventually she was able to get to sleep. I mean, I don't know how. I would not have, but good on ya. But she was not prepared for what she was about to wake up to. She said she looked out her back door and gasped. There were 3 long slash marks in her tree that were at least 4 inches deep. Whatever the heck that thing was not happy. She says it's almost 2 years later and those marks are still there, fading. So leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you have any questions, drop them there. She might be able to answer them for you. She'll be keeping an eye. And as always, don't forget to follow for more creepy story time.
Get ready with me while I tell you guys these ghost stories. These 2 stories were sent into my email, and if you have any ghost stories, paranormal encounters, or scary stories that you want to share, you can send them to the email in my bio. This first happened to me and my cousin when we were younger. We were staying over at our uncle's house, and it started off like a normal night, watching scary movies, messing around, trying to scare each other. You know how it is when you watch too many horror movies in a row, you start feeling brave. That's not how it is for me. When I watch too many horror movies in a row, I start feeling scared. I start feeling paranoid. I start feeling like I need to turn every single light on and put a Disney movie on after. That's how I start feeling. At some point, I had this idea. What if we actually tried to contact something? No. Why? Why? Genuinely. Why? Not as a joke. Like, actually try. So we started grabbing random things around the house. My cat, okay. Mirrors, perfume bottles, anything we thought that could attract something. And then we went outside and it was completely dark, like pitch black. No street lights, no noise, just wind. That kind of quiet where every little sound feels amplified. But instead of backing out, we kept going. We brought a Ouija board with us. Y'all and your Ouija boards, okay? I'm gonna need you guys to stop. We brought a Ouija board with us, set everything up, and started asking questions. At first, we got no response, and then it started moving. You guys. It was answering us. Slow, but clear enough that we both noticed it. And instead of taking this as a sign to stop, we kept going. For a long time. It was maybe an hour or longer. Just sitting out there in the dark, talking to something we couldn't see. And then, suddenly, the lights inside the house shut off. Completely. Pitch black. And that's when the fear actually hit. That's when the fear hit, not when you were talking to something over the freaking Ouija board, because it didn't feel playful anymore. And it wasn't funny. It was real. We both panicked and ran back inside. I ran straight to my room and slammed the door. My heart was racing and I was just trying to calm down. But after a few seconds, I realized something. My cousin didn't follow me. Listen, if you are not keeping up, if you're not following, so sorry, but I would probably do the same, okay? I'm getting myself out of there. I am running, okay? And if you are not as fast and are behind me, I don't know what to tell you, but to be completely honest, I'm not turning around. I'm not looking to see what's behind me. I want to get out. So I opened the door, went back into the hallway and walked downstairs. And that's when I saw him sitting there, completely still on the couch, just facing forward. No expression, no reaction, nothing. Like he wasn't even there. I'm going back to my room. I would just back up real slow and be like, okay, when you have this figured out, let me know. I'm leaving. I tried talking to him and I got no response. He didn't move. He just sat there. And the energy in the room felt wrong. Like something was off in a way that I couldn't explain. So I went back upstairs. I was too scared to deal with it at the time, so I just waited. Eventually, our uncles came home and everything kind of snapped back to normal. Later, my cousin came upstairs acting like nothing had happened, talking normally, with no memory of it. But there was also no weird behavior. There was just nothing. And that was enough to completely freak me out. I was so shaken, I didn't even stay in that house. I left. I stayed away from that house for almost 2 full months before I felt okay coming back. And to this day, I don't know what happened to my cousin that night or what we were actually talking to. The next story starts. One night, about a month ago, my kids were sick. Nothing serious, just some fevers, the usual. My husband and I had finally gotten the whole house to sleep. And around 2 or 3 in the morning, it was dead quiet. My husband was asleep in bed when suddenly he felt something shove him hard enough to wake him up. He said it felt like a hand was pressing into his back, and it felt like something was trying to get his attention. He woke up immediately and turned around, thinking that it might have been me, but there was no one there. Oh no. There was no movement, there was nothing in the room. So now he was confused and a little shaken, but he got up anyway and walks to check on me and the kids. We were all still asleep, completely still. But because he still felt a little uneasy, he decided to just check a little closer. So he goes over to our son and feels his forehead, and he is burning up. His fever had gone up way worse than before. The sort of temperature that needs some sort of assistance and acknowledgement. The timing of it just didn't make sense to us though, because there was no noise. No one crying, nothing that would have woken him up naturally. Just that feeling of someone pushing him, like trying to get him to wake up, to make sure he checked our son. But the part that stuck with him wasn't the fear he felt. It was the intention behind it. Because whatever touched him didn't necessarily feel aggressive. It didn't feel threatening. It felt almost urgent. Like something needed him to wake up right then. To this day, he still tries to explain it, but he can't. Because no one else was awake. No one else was in the room. But something made sure that he didn't stay asleep. And honestly, I don't know what's worse. The idea that something might be watching you, or the possibility that sometimes it's trying to help.
I hope you guys didn't think I wasn't going to make any scary videos on Christmas week, did you? If anything, I found some scary Christmas stories for you guys. I'm also wearing these Christmas tree earrings thanks to Pauline. So the person telling the story says that for a very long time, they're able to travel while they're dreaming. It's to the point where they could even see their own body laying in bed as they travel. In my opinion, that's astral projection, but that's not what they say. But based on how they describe it, that's what I think it is. They mentioned that the dream that they had 4 years ago was the scariest experience they had ever had. And this happened on Christmas night. He remembers this day very vividly because his dad had actually gotten into a fight with his grandmother. Now, the guy telling us the story says that he is very, very close to his grandfather, and he just remembers being really sad because his grandparents weren't going to come over on Christmas Day. Because of this, when nighttime came and he got into bed, he decided to really think in his brain, I want to see them, I want to visit them. He really wanted to have those dreams where he could visit wherever he wanted so that he can go and see his grandparents for Christmas. To his surprise, he was able to travel that night. And yes, I said to his surprise because even though he was in control when he would travel, he never knew when he was going to have these dreams. So he's dreaming and he is walking down his grandparents' neighborhood. He could see that some of the houses were still having parties, they were alive, they were going on. However, his grandparents' home was very dark, almost like maybe they were asleep. He enters his grandparents' home and immediately is hit with like such a negative vibe. He could feel sadness, he could feel hurt. He immediately thinks of his grandfather. He thinks maybe that's what his grandfather was feeling because he wasn't able to spend Christmas with them. But then when he walked into the house, he kind of felt something coming from his aunt's bedroom, and this aunt still lived with the grandparents. He walks towards his aunt's bedroom and says that he tried to open the door, and surprisingly it was really hard to open the door when usually when he's traveling it's not that hard. When he was finally able to enter, he sees that there's something really, really dark on top of his aunt. He starts describing this humanoid figure that is on top of his aunt. It is really dark and he has long arms and legs, but the arms and legs almost look like spiders' arms and legs, and apparently this thing didn't immediately see him enter the room. He also says that it almost looked like this thing was underwater because it had very, very long hair but the hair was almost floating like it does when you're underneath the water. That's also when he notices that this thing had really, really long nails and it was digging into his aunt's back. He remembers seeing that his aunt's back was exposed and it was like open. He said that it looked like this thing was trying to take something off of her bone. Like that's how much he could see from the opening of his aunt's back. And that's when it happens. He says that he's staring at them and this lady with the long hair clawing at his aunt's back just stops and looks straight directly at him. He goes into a complete shock and accidentally wakes up in real life. So he's no longer dreaming, or as I like to say, astral projecting. So he's back in bed thinking, what the fuck did I just see? But the thing that gets to him is that he doesn't think it was just a dream, because 3 to 4 days after this happened, his dad gets a phone call saying that, his aunt is not doing good anymore. She's actually not able to walk, and she was actually never able to walk again because she ended up passing away. She ended up passing away without the doctors even being able to detect what was wrong with her. Time went on, and of course they started spending Christmas again with their grandparents, and on one of the Christmases they ended up doing it at the grandparents' home, and he explains how he finds it really hard to even pass by his aunt's bedroom. He explains how even when he's outside in the garden or in their yard, he feels like there's something there, something that he thinks he could only see if he were in a different realm. But what do you guys think? Like, what could this have been? I feel like he was astral projecting and maybe he saw something while he was astral projecting. That shit happened to me one time and it was so fucking scary. Do I have time to tell a story? I'm just gonna tell you really quick. I would never ever in my life want to astral project. When it happened to me by accident. I knew about astral projecting because I have a friend named Kari who would do this shit on purpose. Like when she would go to sleep, she would try so hard to do this. That bitch is crazy. Anyway, when it happened to me, I was still living in Austin in my apartment, and I remember I thought I was awake, except for when I looked down, my bitch ass is in the bed asleep, and I realized that I'm astral projecting. I'm like, well, let me just explore a little bit because I'm already here. I was in my apartment, but think like apocalypse type of thing. Like my apartment was destroyed. It looked abandoned. It looked crazy. And I started to explore, like get out of my room, go into the living room, and that is when I started to hear really scary, strange sounds, and I got so fucking scared that I went right back into my bedroom and I jumped on myself. And I woke up like, oh. Yeah, no thank you. I had already seen enough. Like my apartment, apocalyptic. Like something was fucking wrong. And then I hear those sounds and I was like, no thank you. So if you astral project and actually like wander, let us know what you find in the comments, please.
তুমি কিন্তু আমার একটা ভিডিও কলও করো না সোনিয়া অ্যাঞ্জেল সোনিয়া
তুমি কি শুরু করছো?
আরে আমি করলামটা কি? আমি যেখানে বয়ে আছি।
এই আমার ফোন দাও কইতাছি
ছাড়ুম না।
কি দাও ছাড় কইতাছি আমার ফোন দিব না আমি।
এইটা আমগো খানদানি রীতি তুই বুঝছ না?
আব্বা গতকালকে রাত্রে বেলা এমন সেটিং দিছি। আব্বা ফোন দিয়ে কি করেন আপনি?
এই কথা কই গান শুনি এই আর কি।
বাস এই দুইটা কামের জন্য
হায় হায় করছে কি আমার খানদানির ইজ্জতের ফালুদা খেয়ালাইছে।
তোবা কোস কি এত বড় বদ জামাই।
হারামজাদা আমার মা।
শাহজাহানের সাজেদা বাগান হুয়ে গেছে গা।
শাহজাহান হুনো না।
কও
বুঝার পারলাম না। বাড়ি মারলা আমারে, কান্দলা আমি কাঁদুম, তুমি কাঁদতাছো কেলা?
তারপর আর কি? সারা রাত কই আসলো কি করছে আমি জানি না। আমার লাগে কেউ
আপনি তো আপনার শ্বশুর বাড়িতে গিয়া ঠিকই হ্যাঁ নিয়ম কানুন অক্ষরে অক্ষরে পালন করছেন, আর আমারতে আয়া মিছা গপ।
তুমি কি কইবার লাগছো এগুলা? তোমার কি মাথা আউট হয়ে গেছে নি? এত বড় স্পর্ধা আমারে আদেশ। আর আমি যে তোর রুমে আইছি, রাইতে ঘুমাইছি, ফাইনাল ডিসিশন লয়ে লইছি, আজকে রাতে কিন্তু আপনার লগেই ঘুমাবো।
আমার লগে কেন বাজান? আপনি আমার লগে ঘুমাইবেন কেন?
জিন্দেগি তুই এইটা আর পোষাইতে পারবি না বাজার। তোর আমি সাবিয়া দিতাছি তুই জলদি।
ক্যাচে লাগাইছে।
মা তুই এক কাম কর, জামাই লইয়া শ্বশুর বাড়ি জাগা। হন মা, শ্বশুর
এই তো একেবারে বাঘের বাচ্চা।
ফুদি দে।
আচ্ছা বাঘের মতন যাবি?
আমি কইতাছি ওখানে খুইলা আসো নালে আমি টাইনা ছিড়া ফেলামু কইলাম।
আমার খানদানি পোশাক তুমি টাইনা ছিঁড়া ফেলাইবা?
আমার ফোন দাও।
শনিবারা আমারে কইছো বন্ধুর লগে কথা কও, তুমি তো এঞ্জেল সোনিয়ার লগে কথা কও কি?
তারপর বউরে দিয়ে হাত পাটি পাইছে, এর বাদে বউরে কইছে পানি লয়ে আহো, বউ পানি লয়ে আইছে, এই পানি দিচ্ছে ফালায়া।
আম্মা আব্বা রুটি সুরত দেখছেন? রুটি এরকম তেরে বাগা কেলা, হ্যাঁ রুটি সুন্দর।
আব্বা আমারে না হয় তুমি বুঝাইলা, তুমি তোমার খানদানের কি বুঝাইবা, আমার আত্মীয় স্বজনের কি বুঝাইবা?
আমি দুঃখিত।
বইয়ের হাতে মার খাওয়া চলে, তাই কিছু কই নাই কা।
আমাগো খানদানে জামাই মারনের নিয়ম নাই কা।
তুই আমার এখান থেকে যাবি না মানে কি? অক্ষণ তুই বেরোবি।
আব্বা
কুইলজা কাপে না?
ওই বেটা ওই তোর কইলজা কাপে না মিছা কথা কইতে, হ্যাঁ? হারাম খোর জানি কোনখানকার।
মাগার মারামারিতে এক নম্বর।
আমি পারি। এখন মনটা চাইতেছে তোমার কান্দের উপর চড়ায় একটা আসান মারি।
ঠিক আছে ভাই, তাহলে আমার মুখ চুপ বন্ধ থাকবো, আর কেউ আমি কিছু কমু না, মুখে কষ্টি।
এখন লাইনে আইছস।
তুমি বাসে আসার পর থেকে আমাকে বাসে শান্তি সব চলে লাগেছে।
আয় হায় খাইছে কুচুটা কি তুমি?
তুমি একটা ভিডিও কল করে পাঠাও প্লিজ, প্লিজ। কবে আমগো দেখা
কোচিনটা কি এটা আব্বার লগে এমন চিপা মাইটা দিয়েছেন? কেমন খানদান বউ?
তারপর তো ভয় কাচে মুচু খায়া গেছে গা, তারপর আবার দুর্নাম করতে হইব। এই তোর কি তোর দামি ফোন?
আইসা বাপ জান, রাইতে ঠিকঠাক মতো ঘুমাইছে তো নাকি বাসায় গিয়া আব্বাজান রে কইবেন?
কি করছো যেটা তুই? বাজার রে বাজার যাও চুইছে, আজকাই তোর শেষ।
সম্মান সব পাঞ্চার করে দিছে।
মাগার দোষ আমারও আছে, আমি একটু বেশি বাড়াবাড়ি করে ফেলছি। চলো না আমরা বাড়িতে ফিরে যাই।
তুমি কি পাগল হয়ে গেছো নি? এটাই আমার বাড়ি এখনতে।
চৌধুরী সাহেবের সাথে আমি কি কথা কইছি? তুমি কোনো কথাই কই নাই কা। সাজান তোমারে কইলো এত
দিচ্ছেন, হ্যাঁ দিচ্ছেন না? এলা বাইরন, আমার বাড়িতে বাইরন।
একবারে হাসা করছেন আব্বাজান। আপনার পোলার এই বাড়ি কোনো রকম ওই বিতলামি করলে আমি তোরা ঘাড়াই, কিন্তু ভাবলাম আপনাকে একমাত্র পোলা গাড়াইলে আবার দিলে চোট পাই।
কি তাছো তুমি?
শোনো, তোমাগো খানদানে যেমন কিছু নিয়ম আছে আমাগো খানদানেও আছে।
এইসব ফাত্রা নিয়ম কেউ যেন জানবার না পারে, মনে থাকবো তো? তোর যে নতুন বাবি
Alright guys, this story is so bizarre, and I'm interested in seeing what you think was going on here. The man telling the story says that when he was about 13 years old, him and his family moved into this relatively new house. It was about 3 years old. So they'd been living there for about 2 years at the time, and he said he was pretty comfortable there. He said that their house was out in the woods and they had goats and chickens. And the only thing that was kind of out of the ordinary was this really weird old shack, right at the edge of the property. It was very small and much older than the house that they lived in, even older than the neighbor's house. He and his sister were always pretty creeped out by it, so they generally kept their distance, but on one day they decided to get a little bit brave. So they headed out to the shack, and he said it took a few minutes because it was a pretty decent walk to the edge of the property. As they cautiously approach, they start to hear this whispering sound. It was hard to make out if it was coming from inside of the shack or almost just like all around them. So just as they approach the door of the shack, a big piece of wood fell over inside and they fled back to their house. Fast forward now, it's the middle of the night and he was awakened, and when he turned his head to look next to his bed, there was a face staring at him right up against his. He is absolutely frozen in fear and he's not moving. He's just staring at this thing, and this thing is staring back at him. He said it felt like an eternity, and then all of a sudden it just said, "Go to the shack," and then disappeared. Okay, so fast forward again to the next morning. He goes and tells his sister what happened to him, and she is sick to her stomach because she says the exact same thing happened to her. Can you freaking imagine? So they decide they're going to go check out the shack again, which I'm pretty sure I absolutely would not. So they gathered up the courage and they headed out of the house. As they approached the woods and then entered it, he said that that initial feeling of fear and uneasiness like they would have before was somehow gone now. And listen to this. As they got deeper into the woods to where the shack was, they could not find it. It was just totally gone, as if it never had existed in the first place. He said they were very familiar with the property. They had passed by this thing many times. They knew exactly where they were going, and it was just not there. Not even any rubble or dirt or any areas where there was no foliage where something would have been. Just gone. And it still bothers them to this day. Like, what the heck was that? Tell me, what are your thoughts? This is almost like Paranormal meets Glitch in the Matrix. Drop them in the comments. And if you have your own creepy story, you gotta share it, and definitely follow for more creepy story time.